Grocery Code of Conduct is now officially in effect. The new rules for grocery retailers are intended to promote fair dealings between grocers and their suppliers. And while the code does not regulate prices or promise immediate relief at the checkout, supporters say it could help stabilize the food supply chain over time. The code will be governed by the Office of the Grocery Sector Code of Conduct. Okay, joining us now to discuss this more, Mike von Massow, Ontario Agricultural Chair in Food System Leadership and Professor at the University of Guelph. Mike, Happy New Year, welcome.
Happy New Year to you too, and thanks for having me.
You bet. And can we sort of just explain in simple terms? I'd like to hear it in your words, because I kind of gave a bit of a preamble there, but really, what is this Code of Conduct supposed to accomplish?
The Code of Conduct provides some guardrails on the relationship between grocers and their suppliers. There have been complaints in the past that grocers have not paid on time or come up with new fees arbitrarily, and their suppliers think that that's unfair. So this sets a set of parameters around what they can ask for, what they can't, and establishes a dispute settlement mechanism in case suppliers feel they aren't being treated fairly.
Mike, if it's not going to really make an immediate or swift impact at the checkout, or if it's not supposed to do that, is there any way that customers will notice this code at work?
The customers aren't going to notice this in their day-to-day interactions with grocery retailers. It may give us a bit more choice if smaller suppliers can find ways to get around the fees and get on the shelf. And it may make your smaller independent grocer a little more competitive. But as far as our day-to-day interactions, we're not going to see a whole lot of difference as consumers.
Who will benefit the most from this code, do you think?
Well, I think people upstream from the retailers, so suppliers and their suppliers, will mean there's less pressure back along the supply chain. In the UK, when they introduced these, it meant that grocery stores couldn't put pressure on dairies, who then put pressure on dairy farmers to lower prices and produce unprofitably. So I think that from that perspective, we've introduced more fairness with suppliers, and also made smaller grocers a little more competitive because they've not been able to charge these fees. They aren't big enough and important enough to these suppliers. So it means that big grocers will still have an advantage, but the advantage won't be as big.
Do you think that we will see any difference when it comes to stable prices in 2026, whether this code is involved in that or not? Do you think there's going to be any change that consumers will notice in what they pay? Because, I mean, you know, you talk to people about grocery shopping, and one of the big things they say is, like, you know, why is butter $8 one week and $4 the next? And that kind of thing. You know, those big changes that people notice.
Well, I'd say a couple of things. I would expect, all else being equal, food prices to stabilize a little bit. But the new reality in a world with extreme weather is that the normal is going to be more up and down on prices. The other thing to remember is that it's both an advantage and a disadvantage that there are specials in Canada, and we see often things like butter used to get people into the store as a special. We're twice as deep and twice as frequent as in the US. So staying on top of the specials and taking advantage of those specials is a way to sort of buffer yourself against some of these cost increases.
There is a lot of onus on consumers. You're absolutely right. It's a great point. And I wanted to finally, Mike, touch on the supply chain, which you mentioned when we're talking about this code of conduct. Have things stabilized since the pandemic? Because a lot of conversations were had about how that really upended things.
Well, I think it's important during the pandemic to remember our supply chains bent, but they didn't break. We were never without food at any point. And I think that remains true. You know, we saw lettuce prices go up substantially in November, and that was because of a problem with quality in Southern California. So we continue to look at ways to make our supply chains more resilient by diversifying our suppliers. And you know, we heard a lot about that in the context of of the tariffs from the U.S. administration. So I think we continue to work on things that will make supply chains more resilient, but I'm pretty confident while prices may go up and down, we are not going to run into problems with getting food.
Okay, great conversation. I wish we had more time because groceries are something that we can all relate to on a daily basis. Mike von Massow, Happy New Year, and thank you very much for joining us today.
Happy New Year, and thanks for having me.